what is that? You know, I don't know what that is. It can be very overwhelming. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then you are more than welcome. My name is Xenia, and in today's video, I really wanted to talk to you guys about what I wish I knew before I became a parent, and essentially the advice I would give my younger self. I became a mum when I was 21, and so I've been a mum for 4 years now, which is absolutely crazy. I have one 4-year-old and another almost 3-year-old. She's 2 at the moment, but she's literally on the verge of being 3, which is unbelievable. But yeah, so I've been a mum for 4 years, and I've kind of been reflecting on like what happened there. I've kind of been reflecting on like what I wish I knew before I became a parent, and like what advice would I actually give myself if I were to go back. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing all of that with you, and just a quick disclaimer that this is just my advice. This is just what I think. Of course, your opinions may be different, and that's completely fine. That's life. So if I say something that you feel like, I don't really agree with that, I'm not saying like this is how you must parent, this is how you must do things. This is honestly just my experience, and like I say, what I wish I knew and the advice I would give people. But if you don't agree with me, that's completely fine. But if you do like this video and you do like this sort of content, then make sure you hit that like button, join the family, and hit subscribe. So as I mentioned, I became a mom when I was 21, and to some people that's like, cool, you know, you're 21, no big deal. And to other people that's like, oh my gosh, you were 21, like that's quite young. Obviously not as young as some other people, but that's quite young. Especially the fact that in the UK anyways, the average age to have your first child is around like 29 to 30. And so I feel like one of the first things I would tell myself is you have nothing to prove. I feel like if you've watched Encanto and the mum is like to Maribel, remember, you have nothing to prove. But yeah, I would tell myself you have nothing to prove. I don't know if it's because of my age or whether this just comes with motherhood and parenting in general, but I guess it was a part of me that felt like, you know what, like I've got to prove that I'm a good mom. I've got to prove that even though, you know, I'm younger, that I'm still capable, my baby's still gonna have everything they need. Sometimes you might get those cautious comments when you're younger, rather than if you were a little bit older. So I feel like one of the things I would tell myself is you have nothing to prove. I don't necessarily feel like I was walking around feeling like, oh my gosh, I've got to prove this, I've got to prove this. But I do definitely feel like on reflection, I did want people to think that, oh, she's actually a good mom, like no matter what her age is. And really, I feel like that's quite toxic, because you shouldn't really care about what other people are thinking of you. You know that you're doing the best for your baby. And if you're constantly thinking about what other people think about you, or this point that you have to prove, it will take away from what actually matters, which is loving your baby, giving them the most attention that you can, adapting your parenting to that child. And if you're thinking that, you know, I've got to prove, like for example, if you're in the supermarket now, and let's be honest, all kids have tantrums. I don't know if you're a mum and you've experienced this where your child is having a tantrum. I honestly used to judge people where they're like, kids having a tantrum. I'm like, fix your child up, honey. Like, why are they on the floor doing the most? Until now, I was that parent in the supermarket and my child was doing the most. But you might feel like, oh, like people feel like I can't control my kid, especially if you're young. You probably feel like, which is not necessarily to say that they are, but you might feel like people are literally looking at you like, oh, see, you know, she's young, she can't handle her child. And so you're gonna like try and calm them down from that place of embarrassment, rather than actually get down on your child's level and help them through the tantrum, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm not saying that this is just an age thing. I'm pretty sure that motherhood comes with all its pressures, no matter how old you are. But one of the things I would tell my younger self is that you have nothing to prove. So one of the next things I would tell myself is that all babies are different. And honestly, I had heard this a lot when I was pregnant with my first daughter, but it's so true. Like, all babies really are different. And this is one thing I definitely recognize, especially when I had my second daughter, because what had worked for my first daughter in terms of maybe soothing her, getting her off to sleep, was not the same things that worked with my second daughter. And so I was like, oh my goodness, like children really are different. Even though they've grown up in the same household, they've had the same parents, the same upbringing, my 2 daughters are literally, they're very similar in ways, but they are very, very different. Like from the minute they've, you know, to be fair, from the minute they were in the womb, but from the minute they've been born, they've been completely different. And so I've had to like adapt to parenting the two of them, and like different techniques and kind of nurturing those different gifts, or trying my best to nurture the different gifts and talents that they both have. And so I would just say that all babies are different. So don't be over here comparing your child to so-and-so's baby or things you may see on the internet, because your baby is different. And honestly, you know your baby better than anyone else. Another thing I heard was that, oh, you'll know what your baby wants by the way they cry. And I was thinking, really? Like, until I became a parent, I was like, really? Like, we only have one cry. But people would be like, no, honestly, like the sound of the cry, the way they cry, like you'll be able to like hear them cry, and you'll be like, oh yeah, she's hungry, or she wants to go for a nap or whatnot. And I actually recognize that, oh my goodness, like this is really true. And you know your baby best, because majority of the time you are the one who spends the most time with them. And so even if people are like, you know, do this or do that, or this should work for your baby, and you try it and it doesn't work, don't beat yourself up, because honestly, all children are different, and that may have worked for their child, but it doesn't necessarily mean it works for your child. And your child might be in a certain level of development. They might develop faster in one area and then not as fast in another area. And so it just honestly just varies. And I am saying that with 2 children. So yeah, if you happen to be a mum or you're about to be a mum, just know that all babies are different, but you will know your child better than anyone else. One of the things I would also tell my younger mothering self is to ask for help. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not saying like I wasn't asking for help or that I was super stubborn or whatnot, but it really does take a village to raise a child. And I was that person like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know how to bath my child. Like, to be fair, I had never had experience with any babies, but I had to ask for help. But yeah, not feeling a type of way for asking for any help in regards also to parenting. Like, I love hearing what other mums do with their babies. I love hearing what works for their babies and different techniques. And even as my children are getting older, I'm so grateful that I have people I can go to, like their children are a bit older than mine, so I can be like, oh my goodness, like what did you do when you entered this stage of life or that stage of life? So just asking for help, but also knowing that sometimes the advice you might get might not be applicable. Is that the word, applicable or applicable? I'm gonna go with applicable, but I feel like that's wrong. No, I feel like I should go with applicable. I'm going with applicable. I hope that's right. It might not be is it applicable or applicable? Oh my goodness. You may not be able to apply the advice given to your personal situation, because as I said before, your baby and your child is different. So yeah, but asking for help, whether it's simply like, do you know what, I really need a rest. And I know that everyone's support system is completely different. But if you do have people around you can honestly speak to and be like, do you know what, honestly, I'm exhausted. Honestly, this motherhood thing, I'm not enjoying it. Like, whatever it might be, like having people you can ask for help and open up to, I think is really, really, really important. So the next thing I tell myself is to not isolate myself. I don't know if it's just me. Is it just me? But I feel like motherhood at times anyways can be really lonely. It might just be me and the way I've handled things, but I feel like some days it's literally just you and your kids, and as much as you love them, as much as you're dedicated and you are devoted to these babies, it can sometimes be really isolating. So I feel like I would make more of an effort to not isolate myself, to reach out to people who God has put in my life, to, you know, build relationships, go to more maybe mum groups, or it doesn't just have to be mums, you know, but yeah, to kind of maintain relationships and to make the effort. And like, if you're struggling, like I say, let somebody know. Or it might not even be struggling, it might just be like, do you know what, I need to feel like a real human being again. Like, I've got one child over here doing this, another child over here doing this, I haven't slept it properly God knows how long, like, and I just need some, you know, girl time or whatever it might be. So not to isolate yourself. I feel like sometimes your position in life might isolate you anyway. Like I say, if you're just like indoors all day with your kids or outdoors all day with your kids, fair enough, you might meet up for play dates and all of that, but yeah, to not isolate yourself and to make an effort with relationships. So alongside that, one of the next things I would give as an advice for young mums is to make sure, like, from as soon as you can, to have you time, and to not forget about your goals, your dreams, your life. Like, yes, you're raising up these other lives, but you yourself still have a life. I can literally remember one of my friends asking me, like, shortly after I had my daughter, she was like, oh, so like, when's the last time you kind of just like had you time? And I was like, me time? What is that? You know, I don't know what that is. She's like, no, like, you need you time, like where you just do something for you. Like, it might be an hour, it might be longer. And I feel like, me anyways, but I know I'm obviously not the only one, like, you want to be that devoted parent, you want to be there for your child, you don't want to miss a thing, especially when they're younger, but you also need your sanity. And like I say, not to forget that you yourself are you, like, you were a person before you became a mum. And so I know it's hard, and it depends on your support network, like I said before, and your circumstances, but as much as you can, like, make time for yourself. Practicing self-care as a mum, I think, is essential. It's essential anyways, but especially when you're a parent. I mean, think about it, you've probably heard it before, but how can you actually give from an empty cup? How are you gonna do that? Like, you ain't got nothing to give, honey. Like, you're running on empty. You are burnt out. You need to have your you time. Remember your goals, remember your dreams, because you don't want your children also to feel like a burden. If you're so tired and you feel like you're not feeling fulfilled in your life and all of these different things, then when it actually does come to parenting and being that loving parent that you want to be, it sometimes feels like, you know what, like, there's just something in the way. And sometimes it's like, you know what, I need a rest. Sometimes it's like, I need a hobby, I need to feel inspired. But when you get quiet and you've just got you to deal with, you can kind of think about these things. One of the next things I would say, and for me this was a big one, is getting comfortable with telling people no. The reality is, when you become a mum, it's not to say you have less time, but obviously your time is more occupied. And so some of the things you may have filled up your time doing before, you might not necessarily be able to fill your time up doing all those things. And it's not to say that you can't obviously make time and that, but it is to say that you may, not even may, like, I feel like you straight up will have to get comfortable with telling people no. And it can be really uncomfortable at times. Like, having to tell to someone, I'm really sorry, but no, I can't do that, or I'm not gonna choose to do that, whatever it might be. And this, not even just in your personal life, this can be in work settings. Like, I've had to turn down overtime before, and people literally look at me like, you do no overtime? Like, you, Zenya, do no overtime? And I'm like, yeah, me, I've got 2 kids, okay? So it's like, I'm choosing to spend time with them, you know? The thing is, you are gonna have to bear the burden of your yes. And that's something I've also had to learn the hard way, where I've told someone yes, and either you're gonna have to show up to that thing that you actually wanted to say no to, and so you're a little bit, you know, bitter that you'd said yes when really you wanted to say no, or you could just say no, and even though it's really uncomfortable in that moment, you're being honest and true to your true feelings and what you genuinely feel that you can handle and can't handle, or it might not be that deep, you know, you just don't want to do something, and say no. And there's also been times where I've had to say no, not because I necessarily don't want to do something, but it was like, it's almost like a sacrifice. Like, you know what, I actually can't do this because this is actually going to affect my household too much if I say yes. And let me tell you as well that you cannot please everyone. Some people may say, oh my goodness, you're always at home with your kids, like, you should get a job, you should work, why are you spending so much time with your kids? And then other people will be like, oh my goodness, you work too much, you should be home with your kids. Like, you can't please everyone, and that also comes with saying the no. And the good thing is, when you do say no to things, when you do say yes to things, it's like, it means so much more. And this is not to say to be mean or horrible. I'm like, strep, no. Obviously have grace for people and have grace for yourself, and really do consider, do you know what, like, what are my priorities? It's a matter of priorities, right? It's like, what are my priorities? So spending more time with people might be a priority of yours. So when there's an opportunity to do that, you might be like, yes, I'm coming, and I'm gonna, like, try my best to find a babysitter or whatever it might be. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit too much now, but basically getting comfortable with saying no. And I know it can be very uncomfortable at first, but the more you do it, you're just gonna be like a no machine. No, no, no. No, but really, the more you do it, the easier it gets. So the next couple of things are a little more practical, but one of the things I would definitely tell my younger self is to get everything that you're entitled to. There's a website that you can use, which basically can put in all your information, like your age, you know, your financial circumstances, and it will kind of tell you like what you may be entitled to, be it childcare, be it child benefits and tax, what is it called? Child tax credits return, or whatever it might be. But yeah, you may be entitled to some stuff. And I'm saying this because I think I was 3 months in with my baby when I was like, hold up, like, is there no support out there? Like, wait, like, I feel like I knew I was entitled to some support. And yeah, like, I had missed out on 3 months, which does accumulate. I think child benefit is about £13 a week, but you know, that adds up. You could save that up and then, you know, invest it for your child if you don't need the money. You could take them on holiday, a little trip, little staycation, wherever it might be. But honestly, I think it's Tesco that say every little helps. So yeah, make sure that you check what you're entitled to and start getting it as soon as possible. Whether it's benefits, whether it's childcare, just check. You know, there's no harm in checking, and then sign up. Which brings me on to my next point, which is to look for nurseries and schools and all of that way in advance, because the waiting lists, they just fill up. And so yeah, like, look for nurseries around you, or maybe near your work if you work, or potential schools, and just start thinking about your childcare options from as early as possible, because they do fill up. And you don't want to be getting to that place where it's like, oh, you know what, maybe you go back to work now, it's like, oh, I need a nursery, and then you call them and then they're like, we haven't got any space. So put them on the waiting list. There's no harm in that. The worst that can happen is that they won't get a place, or they offer you a place and you don't need it. But if your circumstances do change in the future and then you're having to like search for childcare options, majority of the time spaces are full. So I'd say from the get-go, this is something I would also tell myself, is to get my child's name on different waiting lists. And also with schools, honestly, time goes so quickly, and then before you know it, you're having to sign up for schools, and you're like, it can be very overwhelming when you're like, what school should I send my child to? So start looking for schools. You don't need to wait until they're being enrolled into reception, or whatever country you may live in, to start looking. So the final, but probably the most important thing I would tell myself is that love is the most important thing. And I know that sounds so cliche. Of course, you've got to provide, you know, all of the necessities for your child. But honestly, like, love and being present is the main thing. It's like the main thing that grows healthy children. As mothers, as parents, we want to give the best we can to our kids, and that's just normal. Sometimes it can feel like, oh, I'm not doing the best I can, or oh, I'm not doing a good job, and you know, we deal with mum guilt and all of these things. And sometimes I literally have to just have a chat with myself and be like, do you know what, like, you are doing the best you can. Like, you are. Love really is the main thing. You know, pray over your children if you're a person of faith. Speak life into them. I know everyone's situation is different, but if you can, be as present for them as you can, and to enjoy it. The time goes so quickly, and I remember just feeling like sometimes just so, what's the word? I wouldn't say stressed, but just feeling drained. Probably is drained. And because you feel so drained at times, it's like you're not enjoying the moments. And I'm not trying to say you have to be this super hyper happy parent all the time, but knowing that time really does go by quickly. It's such an honor to raise children. It comes with its sacrifices, it comes with its hard days, it comes with its tiredness and all of these things. But honestly, it is such a joy. It's the best job in the world, as some people put it. Enjoy it as much as you can. Reach out for help when you need it. And just know that you're doing the best you can. You know, most of us are. Most of us are not out here trying to, you know, give our children the worst upbringing. We want to give them the best. And so having that heart and having that mindset, I think, is the main thing. I feel like if you have that, things will come together. You will make mistakes. You will. Because everybody does. I think that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did like it, then give it a like. I would also really love to know what your advice is, if you're a mom, if you're an auntie, if you're a parent, if you happen to be in this game of raising children. I would love to know your advice. And yeah, I'd love you to stick around, like I say, by hitting that subscribe button. All the best if you are a parent, and I will see you guys hopefully in my next one. Bye.